Chicago Bears GM Ryan Poles says a move could be made for an edge rusher sooner than later. Who do we think that Ryan Poles could be talking about? When do we think this move is going to come in? And realistically, is trade still an option on the table? We'll talk about all that and more in today's episode of the Windy City Breeze Sports Talk Daily. Let's go. Now, if you are new to the channel, please like the video. Please subscribe to the page, man. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talks. So make sure that you get in tune with us, man. So Ryan Poles making a little bit of the media tour today after the schedule drops, talked with 670 The Score, talked with ESPN 1000 about what he feels like this team is going to look like coming into this season. And the one thing that really keyed in for me was his comments about stuff that he wanted to do with the edge rushing position, how he wanted to address this, right? And I think that it's something that literally all of us have been asking for. The one thing that really sticks out to me, though, is the fact that he said that we could see something on that front sooner than later, or right, like either way, what he's telling you there is that he's looking to address this position. He's looking at the free agent options. He might be looking at some of the different trade markets as well, but that he also sees what we see, and that Ryan Poles is not done basically addressing what this team needs to head into the season. I think that's something to really key in on when we're seeing a lot of these schedule predictions, because here's the thing: you can only predict based on what you currently know. And what we currently know right now is that the edges on this team just aren't good enough. We think that maybe there's some okay pieces on this team, but you realistically only have two edge rushers in Travis Gibson and Dominique Walker, right? So to me, or I'm sorry, Dominique Robinson, I put the two of them together, Dominique Robinson. And so to me, right, like we knew that it was something that needed to be addressed, but in years past, with money still on the books that you can go out there and possibly do something in the middle of the season, that's usually when we would see a GM try to make a move in Chicago. Ryan Poles letting you know right now, basically, that sooner than later means that you're going to see something happening no matter what on the edge rusher front. And that excites me. That tells me that at a minimum, he's still trying to add to this team. And maybe I'll say this, maybe it gives me a little bit more belief than I probably would have had before hearing that in this team, because if you've listened to me at all, right, the main thing that I've said is that the Chicago Bears floor is probably 7 wins, ceiling about 10 wins. But if you feel like your floor is 7 wins, are you trying to add as much as you can? Are you trying to spend as much money, right? Like, I don't think that the Bears believe that their floor is 7 wins. I think that with how Ryan Poles is talking about still looking to add to this team, still trying to add more things, because realistically, right, we feel like that's the last piece to this defense that makes this defense have at least some teeth on it, so that you're at least putting pressure on the quarterback better than you did last season. Now all of a sudden I'm sitting here having a conversation with you, and I'm like, hey, does Ryan Poles believe that this team is actually poised to make maybe more of a leap than a lot of Bears fans, a lot of Bears pundits think around the league? That might just be the case. I want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down there talking with you as well. How do you guys feel on Ryan Poles being able to go out there and add an edge rusher? Who's some names of guys that you'd really like to see the Bears go out there and get? I'll be down in the comments talking with you guys as always, man. So keep the love coming. Appreciate you guys for showing so much support to the channel. If you haven't done so, hit that like button, dog. You're 4 minutes into the video and you ain't pushed the button yet. What are we doing? Anyway, let's keep this thing going, man, because here's the thing. Who are some realistic names that the Bears could go out there and get? We've talked about Yannick Ngakoue. We've talked about Leonard Floyd. We've talked about Frank Clark. Those are names that I think that are still really available and on the table, right? But here's the question that I really have, because he hasn't ruled out the option that a trade could be made, right? I believe he was talking about, right, like how you're able to go into this season and have some draft capital where you can still be able to have these conversations with teams. Now all of a sudden you're sitting there and you're like, hold on, could we be talking about a trade for a realistic edge rusher that may be able to come in, maybe a Chase Young on the table? Now, again, Chase Young has listen, When you talk about injury concerns, to me, I am very concerned about what Chase Young could be. And I think that would be a major gamble for Ryan Poles to take here in his second year in the Chicago Bears uniform. But at a minimum, right, the one thing that we've asked is, when is the swing for the fence player coming? And if we're being 100% honest, that would be your swing for the fence player. That would be you trying to trade for Khalil Mack. And maybe now, with the uncertainty of what he's going to be, you can gamble a little bit and maybe get him for a third-round pick. He's not going to garner a first-round pick. He's just not, right? So maybe you can get him for a third-round pick, a hope and a prayer pick, right? Maybe you can get him for a third and something else, or a second or a future second maybe, and a fourth this season, something like that, right? Where now you're talking about, yeah, you're giving up the draft capital. It sucks. You're taking a gamble on this guy. But if this guy's healthy, he is an absolute wrecker on that defense. And now you're talking about a defense that has Chase Young, Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards. Who's TJ Warren? That's the basketball player, TJ Warren. I really went back on that one. By the way, I told y'all he wasn't that good. It was the bubble, baby. It was the bubble. TJ Edwards, Jack Sanborn, right? You got Noah Sewell coming up. Now all of a sudden I'm talking about a defense that has some teeth in it. And on top of that, you've got somebody that the defenses can focus on in Chase Young if he's healthy enough to go, right? Which he played, I think, the last 4 or 5 games of last season. So if he's healthy enough to go, he's able to get, that pressure on the quarterback. Now that makes things easier for your young players to start to acclimate into their role. Now you're not talking about Javon Dexter struggling to change his mindset to a two gap system down to a one gap system, right? Down to a prevent system. Now you're talking about Zach Pickens being able to slide into his spot and being able to attack a lot quicker. So I think that there are more reasons than not to go out there and get a vet. I think a trade would be interesting. Chase Young gets me excited. I'm not going to lie, but it's also one of those things where it's like you're swinging for the fence or you're just hoping for the best with that one, right? On the flip side of that, though, listen, there's still some really good names out there. And Yannick Ngakoue, when I looked into it, right, like he was one of those guys who was a weird situation because I think he's played for 5 teams in 6 years, basically. And when you look at it, you try to figure out, okay, why the heck has he played for so many teams? Is he not a team guy? Is he not a guy that fits in the locker room? Is he not a guy that acclimates himself well? But then you start to look at the teams that he's on, right? He ends up getting moved on from Oakland over to Minnesota. Minnesota all of a sudden had to kind of bottom out because they end up moving on from guys. He goes from there out to the Colts, goes up, right? Like all this movement kind of comes in the time frame of we're trying to reset things here, and he's one of the best pieces that we can move to reset things here. The one thing that doesn't change about a Yannick Ngakoue, though, is that he gets to the quarterback. And he gets to the quarterback really, really well. So I think that he would be a really interesting guy. Now, is he going to be more of a big money guy? Yeah, he is. I'm not going to lie to you. And I would think you would want him here for more than a 1-year deal. I don't think that he would come here and just look to sign a 1-year deal. I think that might be why it's taking a little bit longer. Or maybe he is. Maybe that plays into it too, right? Like he's like, I want 1 year and then I'm out. But I think GMs would more so jump at that versus having to lock a guy up for 2-3 years. But the Bears, here's the thing about the Bears. They have the capital to do it. They have the money to be able to go out and grab that level of player, right? They have the money to be able to go out and add that to this roster, and it allows you to hit the floor to where you can roll over some of your money so that you're still good when you get to the point where you got to pay Justin Fields. I think that Yannick Ngakoue is a guy that fits what we want to do, already knows how he works in Fluce's style of defense. We already know that he's going to be able to get to the quarterback. I think he still comes in. Is he going to be a leader on that defense? I don't know, but I'm also not looking for him to be the main leader on that defense. I'm looking for that to be Tremaine Edmonds. I'm looking for that to be, right, a Jack Sanborn who's been there 2 years. I'm looking for that to be some of these young guys that are trying to make their way here. Justin Jones, even, who's been here for a couple of years. So to me, right, I look at what that situation could end up being, and maybe Yannick Ngakoue is the better answer overall to me, right? Like, I mean, yes, you're getting Chase Young, you're getting the youth, but you're giving up more capital versus going out trying to sign a Yannick Ngakoue if he wants to be here, and he's still has the youth on his side, still able to get the money on his side, still able to, he'd be a player that you could lock up for multiple years. Leonard Floyd's an interesting one, right? Like, I would rather have Yannick Ngakoue than a Leonard Floyd. Leonard Floyd played the 3-4 defense. I don't know how he's going to switch to a 4-3. Technically, he would just have to rush the passer from the outside. I could see him being able to do that. The other thing, though, to me is that what are you going to do when defenses focus on you? right? And I understand, right? And I do think, more so than most people, I feel better about Leonard Floyd than most people do, because I think that something did click. Everybody's always like, well, Aaron Donald made things easy. Well, I hate to tell y'all this. Khalil Mack was getting double teamed when he was here. Akeem Hicks was getting double teamed when he was here. And I still watched Leonard Floyd not be able to get to the quarterback. So I think that there is in a season where we were getting to the quarterback at an immaculate rate. I believe he had 3 sacks out of everybody, right? So I think that plays a big part into it. I think maybe he just found a little bit more of his comfort zone in the league. And so I think that does play into the sack numbers as well. I don't think that it's all just Aaron Donald, but Aaron Donald does help, right? So like, how are you going to be able to switch it when now you're the high paid guy, you're the number one guy? So for me, I know how Yannick Ngakoue is going to be. I would go with the surefire thing. But hey, I want to know how you guys feel, man. Let me know in the comments below. I'll be down in the comments as well. Let me know who you think the Chicago Bears should be going after. Make sure you drop a bird down to let me know you made it to the end of the video, man. I appreciate everybody who supports the channel, shows that love and all of that, man. As always, man, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again to continue watching our Chicago Bears content. Click the links on the screen or check the links in the description below, and make sure to check out today's episode of the Windy City Breeze podcast and of the Chicago Bears podcast. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Peace.